Hey, welcome back to our channel, A Year of Magical Learning, aka YOML. So today is episode 76. So Chris, tell me what we have in store for this episode.
Yes. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about a book called The Warmth of Other Suns, the epic story of America's Great Migration by the author Isabel Wilkerson. This is a story about um, Black people in the South exiting, immigrating basically from their own country into their own spots and into other areas of the country, where over 6 million people, moved from the South. Black Americans moved from the South to the North and to California, places like that, and the whole Great Migration that happened within our own country. We always think of immigration as coming from places like Ireland or Italy or Vietnam or whatever it may be, but in the segregated South, once they kind of Civil War was over and all that other stuff and Jim Crow laws and all the things that I don't know much about because we didn't live through this stuff. But like how you ended up with cities like Cleveland and Chicago, you hear about Chicago all the time with like these, so many African American people. Like, how did they get to Chicago? Like, why are they in New York? Why are they in Cleveland? Why are they, how did that all happen? That all happened during this time frame between, Jim Crow segregated South. Even though they were free, they really weren't free, and then they wanted to try to be humans and to try to be free and to try to go
to be truly free.
Yeah, to create whatever they could create. So they, you're an immigrant. I mean, you probably have an interesting perspective on all this stuff, as to, why you would do this thing, why you would leave your home, why you would risk it all to go somewhere else, start a new life, and that's why the actual title of this reflection is I Can't Imagine, which is ironic because obviously this is the same title as my book, right? And the reason why I titled it this, it took a lot of great pains for me to donate this title to this particular book, but I felt it was worthy of it because as I listened to the author Isabel Wilkerson tell, it was structured with like 5 different family stories of where they came from and why they left, and then their future generations and all that stuff. Like it was just like these 5 family stories basically from immigration through relocation and then what happened afterwards. And as I was listening to the story, all I could think was I can't even imagine what it must be like to be not wanted in your own home, like to feel unsafe when you walk down the street every single place that you go, and I think of where I grew up in Indianapolis and where I still live today. Like I can't imagine walking around the city feeling like I'm not welcome here. This is my home. This is where I grew up. This is where I've experienced, my entire life. And this is where I want to be, and it would be, I can't imagine what it would be like to live here and to not feel that way. And to feel like other people are like, yeah, you might live here, but you don't belong here. We don't want you here. And that's something that this book really helped to resonate with me, is to hearing these people's stories and understanding what they went through and why they left. And because once again, I can't imagine ever wanting to leave here. I don't know what it would take for me to want to say, I got to get out of this place. I just don't feel like this is the right place for me anymore, So as I was listening to more and more to these stories, it gave me a great appreciation for what they went through. And then also gave me a deeper appreciation for like my own family. My dad's side of the family are immigrants from England and Ireland. And my mom's side is Italian. So, I mean, they've fled poverty and they, I don't think of these things anymore, but like, it's not really a big part of my family's life. I'm, multiple generations removed from a lot of those scenarios, I guess, at that point in time. But this book made me reconnect a little parents go through when they decided they wanted to get on a boat and leave their entire life behind in Italy and, sail across, dangerous seas to come to America with, I don't know what they wanted to accomplish here, just anything else. It sounds like, just a chance at a living life that you want to live, So it was really impactful book, I would say, and a book that I'm glad that I read. And then this is the power of these stories. This is the whole point of this whole journey of the Year of Magical Learning, is to feel stories and to learn about other things from humanity that we can't experience on our own, and that we shouldn't expect to experience on our own. But that doesn't mean that there isn't lessons to be learned in this, and doesn't mean there isn't knowledge to be gained to continue furthering our own quest and our own path. And that was really what the importance of the story. This is the other beauty of this whole entire journey. I actually, one of my favorite questions these days is when I I'm talking to friends or somebody that new that I just met, is, what's the one book that you learned the most from in your life? This particular story came from my my hairstylist, Marta, who I've been going to for, I don't know, 10 years or so, probably more. And we always would talk about things like travel and life plans and stuff like that, right? Well, these days are conversations ever since the Year of Magical Learning and ever since Amelia, have shifted a lot, and we talk a lot about things like this and different books that we read, and stuff along those lines. And one of these days, I finally just asked her, I was like, what, Marta, what is the one book that you've learned the most from? And she was like, what, I think it was The Worth of Mother Sons, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm in. So that was how I ended up, finding this book and reading about it. And I agree. I mean, it wasn't necessarily the number one book that I learned the most from, but I definitely feel like I learned a lot. And I can't imagine their life, and I appreciate them sharing that story. And maybe I learned just a little bit, by hearing what they shared. So yeah, I'll pause there. Love to get your thoughts.
So what's the
question?
Yeah, what's the question?
Yeah. What's the one book you learned the most from in your own life? Yeah.
Okay. So I think, I guess before I say my opinion, I mean, can you imagine a little bit of what these stories is about after you read it?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, these people were afraid of their lives. I mean, they literally they didn't want to leave their homes. Even though they knew that their homes were painful, and even though that they knew their homes were, not welcoming to them, they still didn't want to leave. It still, it hurt. It hurt. It took them being pushed to the brink. And usually a lot of times it was some of the stories that she shared in this book, they ran away because they were going to get lynched. Literally they did something stupid and they were running away because they were going to get killed. Or they couldn't be a doctor, or they couldn't practice medicine that they studied hard for because they weren't valued because of the color of their skin. So they were like, I'm going to go somewhere where I can try to make an impact on the world that I was studying to create. I mean, I literally cannot imagine, being told, no, I cannot do something because of what I look like and where I mean, in the place that I live, in the place that I call home, and to have to feel like I have to leave my home just to go have the possibility to try to live a life that I want to live, I literally cannot imagine that. Yeah.
So for me is, I think, I think reading a book kind of give you maybe a slight understanding of it, but not a lot, because what I'm saying is, I'm sure there is a lot of people who move or migrate or immigrate into another country because there are certain things that they want or whatever, but that's only like a very few percentage. I'm talking about 1 to 5% of most people who travel around, just because but when you have what you call an exodus,
right?
You're forced. They move not to live a better life, because you have to understand they move to live,
right?
At all. That's the understanding you have to get, is they move so they can live, not because they have to live a better life. It's so they can live. So think back in the Egypt, where the Jews are escaping Egypt. They move to live. I moved, my parents and my generations of the Vietnam, they moved because we moved to live. Because it's like you are in a frying pan. what's your choice? You're gonna have to jump, regardless if you're gonna jump into a fire, you will jump. This is because that place for you isn't an option.
Right.
So for these people in the South, it's not an option. They have to move.
Right.
It's not that, hey, I want to move so I have a better place. I want to move so I can be a doctor or whatever. I move because there's no other choice.
Right.
Because if you're talking about in Vietnam, you are traveling across the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean, like that's like a long, it's a huge space.
Right.
And anything can happen, and a lot of people die in the ocean. But it's like you're gonna jump because you're in a frying pan. There's no option for you. You're not saying, oh, I want to go to America because it's better life there or anything like that. No. Most people move because and like I say, there is exceptions in terms of like in peacetime and in whatever, that there are some people who move because of that, but that's only very rare. But when you talk about an exodus, a lot of people move. It's because whatever where they're at, it is actually a frying pan. There's no other choice. They don't move for a better life. They move for a life, any life.
Right.
And they will take the chance of jumping from a frying pan into the fire. Like I say, you're going to so in Vietnam, what they do is you have to actually sneak out, because if you get caught, they're gonna put you in prison.
Right.
They're gonna beat you up. Something with North Korea, right?
Oh, it was the same. It was the same with the South as well. I mean,
exactly.
Like, yeah, it was.
It's the same with Egypt.
Right.
I mean, so I wanna kind of give you that these guys, they move because, I mean, you're talking about like these Jews are moving out of Egypt into what, the promised land, and they wandered the desert for 40 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not like, oh, I see what's over there. You don't. You jump into the unknown. Even the unknown could be for a lot of the Vietnamese, is a lot of them, they just die in the ocean and on the boat. And basically, like they pack this boat like sardines or rats, just because, I mean, there's no place for you to lie down. You have to, I mean, there's no space, and this is how much they pack. I mean, you can just, I mean, there are photographs of the when the Vietnamese boat, when this boat docked on the coast of California, they said, I mean, you can see there's no room for anyone to sit down.
Right.
That's how much, and they're talking about taking months. And most of these boat, like they get pirated by in Thailand, in Malaysia, in whatever. Horrible things happen to them, but people continue to exit, because it's not like, hey, I'm going for a better life. I'm going there for a life, period. And so for me, having having to see that kind of give me a little bit more understanding. But the depth is so deep of these things that it's hard to imagine. Like I said, you really can't imagine until you actually can read one of these stories, kind of give you a little bit more of a level of understanding, and then more and more and more. But it's one of those things where, like we said, talking about what was it, understanding, what was it, the thing that we
learning and understanding are not the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
Yeah, I do not understand what you're talking about. I'm listening and I'm learning, and I listen and I followed along with this book, and like but on the flip side, people don't understand what it's also like to lose a child, or to spend 6 months of your life in the NICU, or to watch your daughter fight for their life every single day in front of you. But at the same time,
I'm talking about you scratching 10 to 20% of the surface, right?
Exactly.
And so, like I say, I know there are much more power in you, because you have Amelia with you. I can only get probably 10 to 20% if I really try to understand everything, which I do, but compared to what you experience, it's not even comparable. It's not.
Right.
And
vice versa, same thing with you. I mean,
exactly.
I
and I know that. That's why for me, it's like, I know how much you are how much inspiration you get from your daughter than from me, and get inspired from her, because my understanding is not as deep as yours, and it's not even comparable into the level of how much you understand. Because like I said, in my case, and in the case of these African American, is we see it, but it's not the same thing as feeling it, as living through it.
Yeah, right.
And so it does give us a glimpse, but it's only a glimpse. So that's all I have to say. And I think it is a worth experience to have, to kind of understand some of these things, because it kind of gives you a little bit more perspective from how people can go through life and have what have to deal with things that we are lucky not to have to come across. And like I said,
Right.
it's not something that we can imagine on our own. We have to be introduced, right? And when we get introduced, we understand just a little bit, so that we can see the other perspective from their lens, a glimpse of their view from their own eyes.
Right. Exactly. That's what this whole journey is about. I mean, that is, if there's anything that this journey is about, it's about stories, like it's about conversations like we're talking about right now. It's about sharing. It's about sharing what it's like to be a human, and sharing and learning from others, and sharing your stories together, not because somebody else needs to feel to literally live your pain with you, but to know that everybody feels pain, and then what can we do with it together, like
right. But the thing is, when you read the books, right, it's not that the books, you're helping out the books. It is helping you, because for
exactly.
me, when I read your book, right, it helped me because I see the inspirations, and it affected me, and it changed me somewhat, right? It changed me for the better.
Right.
So the thing is, the books is actually helping the reader. So
Exactly.
it's not that, hey, because you're sharing the book, is you asking people to help you. No, it's the opposite. It's the reverse of it.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, think about the cadence as to how we even got to this conversation. So I'm talking to my hairstylist, of all people, about this book. I go read it and go write a reflection. Now we're doing this, and we're going to share. You and I are talking about it. We're going to put this out into the world for others to read and share. We're going to build a book out of this someday. Obviously, Clubany, this will be one tiny little piece of the puzzle of that is Clubany coming all together. But that's exactly what you're saying, is like this is why these stories matter. It's not for it's for you, and it's for you, it's for all of us to take connect the dots together in our own mind to go build and do what we're supposed to do as humans. Yeah, I don't know, it's a powerful story. It's a all these kinds of stories are powerful stories. I mean, I could probably write, if I was being honest, I could probably write I Can't Imagine for 90% of the books that I read, especially books about humanity, like human stories, I can't imagine Andre Agassi's life, I can't imagine Phil Knight's life, but I through the books, through listening to their stories, you can take a tiny little, nugget to hold on to for yourself, to then, try to go be a better human. And that's what this is all about.
So before we I like to answer that question.
Yeah, I think I know the answer. Can I try to answer it, or should I just say
you can answer it?
I'm gonna go with Why We Sleep.
No.
Damn. All right. All right.
So
I don't know.
The book that I've learned the most, that I would never have expected, is I Can't Imagine.
Oh, thank you. I mean,
because the thing is, I mean, the thing is, it's, for whatever reason, other books, they have like something for me to learn, and they tell me what it is. But they Can't Imagine is like, I'm just living through your eyes, and there is so much from the senses, from the emotion, that you can't help but it's like ingrained into you. And basically from that, it I feel like an energy source. It's just surging just because from that memory of the book alone. I mean, so for me, I still can't imagine how much energy you would have compared to what I'm getting, right? And you know what I mean? Because the thing is, it's to me that book is still very vivid for me versus any other books I've read. Yes, I've read Why We Sleep. I love it, but the only thing I remember is you need sleep. Don't drink coffee,
Right.
right?
Right.
The book Black Swan, right? Everything's things are random, right?
Right. Right.
So there's things that I learned, but the book I can't imagine. It's vivid. It's very emotional. Even when I'm talking about it, there is a surge of emotion, a surge of energy comes from the heart, right? So to me, that book, whether I'm subconsciously learning things, is probably the most impactful book that I've read, whether I'm aware of it or not, because that's the book that still it is a vivid in my memory. It's ingrained in it, right? Like I
Yeah.
say, I can tell you about the other books, right? Thinking Fast and Slow, I can tell you the high level what it is,
Right.
but
Right.
as far as the emotion, it's not there.
Yeah.
Because I think the emotion is what so the emotion is like essentially like an energy core.
Mhm.
When you have emotion, it makes you do things. It gives you the energy to do things, right? And so it's like an inspiration. So it's like it's that self-driven core. It's like a infinite energy core that you have within you, as long as you can evoke the emotion. Because emotion will allow you to do anything you want, because if it drives you from within. And so, like I said, that book, even talking about it now, it fills me with emotion, with memories. It's a vivid memory.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And Amelia is a pretty powerful person, and that means the world to me that you said that, honestly, because like
Yeah,
that's
because the
that
thing that
was
stick in my mind the most, and all I've seen is her last day when they unplug her from the machine. That memory, that image, it's so ingrained in my head and in my emotion. I cannot like forget it, even
same
as
here.
a reader,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, same here. It's something I'll. I mean, I think about it 30 times a day. It's
mhm.
she's just strong. She's just the strongest person I've ever met. And she's incredible. So I mean, like I can't tell you how much that means to me, because I wrote that story so other people could understand Amelia. They didn't get to meet
Mhm.
her,
Yeah.
but
And the
but
thing is,
but through those
I
words,
think
hopefully they
that
can.
the thing that separates that book apart is because you're not telling a reflection on what you remember. You actually document that, and that's
Right.
much more powerful.
It's actually pretty crazy when I even us now talking about these things today, like I just last month or a couple months ago was marked her second year since she's passed away, and um, from when she was born till when she passed away was about 39 days, and then the journals that I wrote that made up the book, right? I tried, my best. I didn't do it every single day, but I tried my best to read, a few of the journals here and there, just to remember, get myself back into that mindset of where I was just a couple years ago, literally in the NICU with her by her side, and reading the journals that I wrote, for her at that time. And it was hard for me to even remember. It felt like a different person. I mean, it felt like a different. I mean, I'm so glad that I was able to share that stuff with her,
Mhm.
to write those things at that time, so I could remember her, forever.
Mhm.
Because there's some things that I would come across and be like, I don't remember
Yeah,
that. Like, I mean, and I
over
yeah,
time, your memory is gonna fade. But
right,
having that book, having like documenting what you kind of like talk to her that day, and documenting your state of mind, and the kind of the information you have at that point in time, like retains the accuracy of the memory so that you can, reload it whenever you need to.
Transport back there, and
Mhm.
and be in my favorite place in the world, which is
Yeah.
next to my daughter. So, but I really appreciate you saying that. I don't actually. It's funny that I asked this question and you just answered it. I don't know that I have an answer ready for this question myself. I mean, shit, I don't really know the answer to this one. I'd have to. I need to go. I would need to go think about it. I mean, a couple of books immediately come to mind of things I've learned the most from. Thinking
Mhm.
Fast and Slow might be one of them. Seven Habits might be one of them.
Mhm.
I also think of books like Born to Run. I feel like I reference that all the time, and I feel like I learned
Yeah.
a lot from that book. So those are, and then maybe uh, uh, oh no, I'd say those are probably the top three that come to mind immediately.
Mhm.
Sapiens maybe as well. I don't know, but yeah, I'd have to really think about this one. But yeah, it's a good question. So for anybody else listening out there,
Well, I think
yeah.
I think I'm fortunate that I was able to read that book, because thing is, it's not I mean, it's not in the category of the book you mentioned,
No,
but it is most impactful because you and I have like tried to search for these meaning of life, the balance and all that, but this book essentially solidified that conviction for me. Because
me too.
we're talking about like, okay, we read the 7 habits of highly effective people. He's asking you, in your, and if you imagine your funeral and people giving the eulogy, what would they want you to what would you want them to say, right? That's something, but it's not impactful enough. This book here essentially solidified that, because
Yeah.
whatever I do right now, nothing else matter. I don't care if I lose my job or I lose my house or whatever. It doesn't affect me that much, right? Because what's important in the end, right?
Right.
And so when I have something that Amelia doesn't have, right? And for me to cry like, like a wuss, right? I feel so shameful. But because Amelia came to life without, a healthy body. I mean, she doesn't have anything that I have. And for me to say, hard things about hard things, right? I mean, it's not even, like I said, you can't even put them in side by side to compare.
Yeah.
And so to
You literally
me,
can't
this
imagine, right?
book essentially solidified that conviction. It is, you need to find out what and why, you live, how you live and who you live for and why you live.
Yeah.
And so a lot of books from great people, I think they're great, but I think is they're missing that powerful emotional,
Binder.
evokes that emotion.
The binder, bringing
Yeah.
it all together, kind of thing. You're right. I'll have to think. Once again, I appreciate you saying all that, and I feel the same way about Amelia as well, and how the impact she's had on my life. So I'll have to think hard about this question, because you're right.
But you can't use that book because you wrote it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's certainly many books that I can think through, but you're right. I need to find one that has more emotion that ties in more emotionally for me than like
Right,
a
because
Thinking
I
Fast
think
or
that's the
Slow.
only way
Yeah.
that it would drive anyone
Yeah.
to continue. Because we're talking about, I can create habits of be healthy and this and that, and protecting what I have, but that's not
Right.
enough, because something come along and just knock me off the path, and I'll be, in a mess again. But if I have the conviction from within, even you knocks me, I'm gonna try to readjust and go around and still focus on the same goal and same anchor that I had before.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the more that you're just talking about this, the more that I'm thinking, like, maybe a book like A Man's Search for Meaning or something like that, or
Yeah, but main
books
search
that
for
don't
meaning,
have
it's
yeah.
it still doesn't give you the. I mean, it's a good book. It has emotion, but not close, not even close.
Yeah. I'll have to think about this one, and I'll get back to you on the next episode here. So we'll
Okay.
kick off the next one with that. But yeah, great. Here is what's the one book that you learned the most from in your life, and if you do have strong, passionate thoughts toward that, please, for the love of God, type it in the chat. Let us know, because we'll read it. You know, like this is what this journey is all about. Share what you care about, and I want to learn. So and True wants to learn. So we all want to learn. Like if it's impactful for you, I'm sure it'll be impactful for me as well. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Right. Bye.